up? GoodMicWork back at you with your Night of Champions 2015 reaction video. Really didn't think I would get up here to do a reaction video tonight. Did not think I would have time. Thought I was going to have to wait until the post Night of Champions Raw was over and come up and review them both. But as it turns out, I do have some spare time tonight, so I figured, what the hell, let me come up here and give some brief reaction on this pay-per-view. I thought the pay-per-view was okay. Wasn't a perfect pay-per-view by any means, but how many pay-per-views are these days? But I was still relatively satisfied with what I saw, and I'm going to get into all of it match by match here in just a little bit. For those of you joining us for the first time, welcome aboard. Please subscribe and give that like button a click. If you don't really like YouTube, I have other options for you. You can listen to all my commentaries on GoodMicWorkCommentaries.com. You can also find me on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. Let's get into this pay-per-view. My predictions were not half bad. I think I missed two matches, well, really 2.5 matches. The Dudleys and New Day. I predicted New Day to retain, but I didn't necessarily pick them to win. So really, I was only half right on that one. But for the most part, I did solidly on my predictions, starting with the kickoff match. I randomly picked Stardust and the Ascension to win. I just thought maybe they would, and generally in kickoff match situations and high-flying babyface teams being involved and shit like that, I thought for sure, you know, my prediction was going to be dead wrong. They were going to have Neville and the Lucha Dragons win this match to get the crowd off on the right foot, but sure enough, my prediction turned out to be true. Stardust and the Ascension did win the kickoff match, so there you go. Not much to say about it. Let's move on to the main pay-per-view. They kicked it off with the Intercontinental title match, which I really liked, and I was really hoping that Kevin Owens would win the Intercontinental title. I think a guy like him is exactly what the Intercontinental title needs right now. Kevin Owens has the respect of a lot of people, you know, especially internet wrestling fans and stuff like that, so he would be a perfect guy, I think, to hold that Intercontinental title right now, because we've all been waiting for that right guy to come along to bring prestige back to the Intercontinental title. Daniel Bryan might have been able to do it, but he couldn't stay healthy. Now they gave it to Kevin Owens. I'm really happy about that, because we all know that Sami Zayn is a guy that he has a lot of history with, and they had a lot of unanswered or unfinished business from NXT before Sami Zayn got hurt, and he's been on the shelf for a while. So when he comes back, if WWE is able to put him right back on the main roster, imagine the matches and the feud those two guys could have for that belt if the WWE did in fact decide to do that. And that could be the closest thing we've ever had to having a 1990s Intercontinental title again, is to have guys like that feuding for the belt. So I'm really excited for the potential success of Kevin Owens' title reign. I hope the WWE handles it, books it properly, and I hope it's a total and complete success in every way possible. So I'm really rooting hard for it. I'm glad Kevin Owens won. I would imagine he's going to have a rematch with Ryback probably right away. Wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw that as early as Monday Night Raw. Next matchup was this silly fucking feud between Dolph Ziggler and Rusev. Now they're going into another singles match here at Night of Champions. Summer Rae, of course, is in Rusev's corner. And I can't even hardly follow what's going on here. It looks like Dolph Ziggler has been giving Summer Rae presents on Raw and SmackDown, giving her earrings and shit like that. Lana apparently is at home clueless with her broken fucking arm, tweeting out shit about how much she loves and misses Dolph Ziggler. Apparently she's not watching Monday Night Raw, so I have no idea what's going on. You're still wondering if there's going to be some sort of a double turn here, or if Rusev can wind up being the one that gets the sympathy and Dolph Ziggler can be more of a heel. There's also rumors about putting Lana and Rusev back together, which I'd be completely in favor for. I don't understand why they would even break them up to begin with, just to do a feud as stupid as this one is. Like, I don't mind personal issues being brought up in storylines between guys. I don't mind if a woman is in between two males, you know, in a wrestling storyline. All of that is fine, but this has all been done so poorly, and it's just so dumb and hokey and crappy, and they're all such terrible actors. I just don't like it. I don't understand it. I think it's terribly done. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with involving women in storylines and, you know, having love triangles and all that kind of shit. That's all part of wrestling, and that's what you do. But this one has just been so silly and not really entertaining, and it hasn't been going the WWE's way, because they've been having monkey wrenches thrown in their plans, like Lana getting injured and shit like that. So to me, they need to wrap this up, and it doesn't look like they're coming any closer to wrapping it up, because Dolph Ziggler won. I thought it was really funny that Summer Rae took off her shoe and threw it and hit Rusev in the face, kind of stuns him a little bit, and then Ziggler hits him with whatever that move of his is and gets the pin and wins. So I predicted this match incorrectly. I predicted Rusev to win. person, he's going to be pissed at her. It's almost like he's going to do the same thing to her that he did to Lana. Start blaming her for losses and getting on her case and everything. So it looks like they're going to go in that direction. And plus, when you factor in Dolph Ziggler giving the bitch presents and all that, it's just, is this ever going to end? So as the world turns, this Hallmark made-for-TV movie that we've been watching play out on Raw and SmackDown for the past few weeks is going to continue, and we're going to have to witness more stupid shit, probably all the way up until Lana finally returns, whenever the hell that will be. So whatever the end result here is, I don't know. We could wind up seeing Dolph Ziggler and Summer Rae become heels, and Lana reuniting with Rusev as babyfaces. We could actually see that happening. There's a very good chance. Tag team title match time. Champions New Day defending against challengers, the Dudley Boys. Now, this is one that I predicted half right, half wrong. I did not think New Day was going to lose the belts yet. Look, New Day's fucking over. Have you guys noticed that? Think about when they first came in, and they were getting virtually no reaction from the crowd at all. You know, we all liked the vignettes. We thought it had promise. It looked good. And I was even excited for it. You know, we all mistook it for a new Nation of Domination or something like that. That was obviously never the intention. But it still looked very promising. But then when they debuted, they weren't clicking. The fans weren't into it. They were bored. They were chanting boring. They persevered. Big E, Kofi, and Xavier, to their credit, have done a wonderful job. They have been 100% balls in to this gimmick. And I got to give them credit, because when the fans are shitting on it and they're still remaining so positive about it and not giving up on the idea and basically pretending and ignoring the fans' boos, they were really as enthusiastic as ever, no matter what the crowd reaction was. And I think because of their enthusiasm, really, it helped get this gimmick over. And once it evolved a little bit, Xavier Woods is out there now with the outlandish hairstyles, and he's playing the what is that, a trombone, a trumpet? I don't even know. He's absolutely hysterical. He's got me laughing all the time. Big E and all of his dancing and gyrations, and Kofi and doing his thing. They're very entertaining. They're incredibly entertaining, and I think they are more over now than they have ever been. So I didn't see the WWE taking the belts off them at this point. Even if it means putting them on the Dudleys, I still think Dudleys need to chase around the New Day for a while. Much like Charlotte had to chase around Nikki, I think the same thing should happen with Dudley Boys, and I didn't want to see them come right back into the WWE and win the tag team titles immediately, because if they do that, then they got nowhere else to go but down. At least this way, this shit can stretch on for a while. Dudleys can eventually have their moment. Maybe WWE can wait until they have a big show at MSG or, somewhere in that part of the country where the Dudley Boys will be guaranteed over. That might be the best time to do it and wait for a situation like that. So I predicted the New Day to retain, which they did, but they didn't actually win the match. It was just a DQ. Dudley Boys had them beat. I actually wish that WWE would have had the New Day beat the Dudley Boys. I think they should have. Even if it meant outside interference, who cares? They could have cheated all they wanted. I think the New Day should have pulled some shit. And because think about it, it is 3 against 2, really, when you think about it. And I think Xavier Woods should have got involved and cost the Dudley Boys the match, and I think New Day should have won. I think that would have been better. But instead, they didn't want to beat the Dudleys, so they went with a disqualification. Dudley Boys had, I think, Kofi pinned or whatever, and then Xavier Woods interfered. Referee had to call for the bell, and it was a disqualification. So I'm fine, really, with the finish, because I wanted New Day to keep the belts, but I think it would have been better if they would have actually cheated and won the match instead of getting disqualified. Charlotte versus Nikki. Dun, dun, dun. Here we go. Holy shit, was my last video controversial. I loved it. I loved that I did that video, because you know what? I stand 1,000,000% behind every single syllable that I spoke. I thought it was absolutely ridiculous, the outrage of these fans, when if you just watch the storyline and you're not so goddamn biased and worried about who you like and who you don't like, if you just watch the story, all signs are pointing for Charlotte to get that moment at Night of Champions. What purpose would it serve for her to do it on Monday Night Raw? Aren't you glad that you waited for the moment? You're really that concerned with someone as insignificant as Nikki Bella holding the fucking butterfly belt longer than anybody else? Does that even fucking matter? Does anybody even fucking care? I sure as shit don't. I said right from the start, this has less to do with Nikki Bella's ability, and it has more to do with her relationship with John Cena and Nikki Bella's mother's relationship with John Laurinaitis and all of that shit, and that just gets under the fans' fucking skin. And then when you combine that with the fact that Nikki Bella is not exactly Trish Stratus in the ring, it just makes for one big horrible situation to where the fans become completely delusional, irrational, and unable to see facts and logic staring them right in the face. In all of the videos I do on YouTube, I think I only have 3 that has more than 40 dislikes. And I laughed so hard because people can dislike the shit out of that video. I still have 5 times more likes on that video than I do dislikes, but it just cracks me up how many people take such offense to simple, logical argument. I wasn't going on and on about how great Nikki was in my last video, but that's the way everybody perceives it because they're not used to hearing anybody not freak out over a finish of the match like what we saw on Monday Night Raw. To me, I'm like, hey, idiots, it's part of the storyline. Can't you see that Nikki Bella is escaping every fucking match? People are acting like she's Super Nikki. They're acting like she's Super Cena-ing her way through victory after victory against all of these girls. No, since the minute all those NXT girls came into WWE, they have been smashed over, and they have been beating the shit out of both Bella girls week after week after week. I can only think of like one time that the Bellas scored a victory, and of course they had to cheat to do it with the Nikki and Brie double, what do they call it, double trouble or whatever the fuck it is when they switch places. That's like the only time I can ever remember the two of them having a positive moment since the NXT girls arrived into the WWE. So to me, I couldn't believe how mad the fans were getting just by the fact that Nikki was holding that stupid belt. She's been tapping out week after week. Just be patient and let the WWE give that moment to Charlotte when they're ready. And going into that match on Monday night, I was saying to myself, who wants to see this here? I don't. I want to see Charlotte win this at a pay-per-view in a big moment at a pay-per-view called Night of Champions. To me, that would be a much better stage to win the belt than just on some random middle-of-the-show match on Monday Night Raw that's going head-to-head with a doubleheader on Monday Night Football. To me, just be fucking patient. We knew the match was already signed, sealed, and delivered. You knew Nikki wasn't going to escape any further than Night of Champions because the only thing the WWE wanted to do was to get that record away from AJ Lee. They did that, so she's going to drop it now. To me, I didn't see the big problem in waiting, but people misconstrue that and think that I love Nikki Bella. Now, if you can't tell the difference between what I say and sarcasm, then you're a fool. If you read me on Twitter, I always joke to the extreme, and I make it very clear that I'm joking about all of my feelings for Nikki. I say things like, Charlotte needs 5 more years of training if she wants to be as good as Nikki. If you can't read that and know that that's sarcasm, then you are a fool. So what cracks me up about any John Cena video that I do, or any video like I did, like my last one where I gave my thoughts and opinions on the match from Monday Night Raw, the Divas match, if it's not what they want to hear, they take it to such the opposite extreme where they say, oh, he's just in love with Nikki Bella, in love with John Cena, and drinks his semen and all that shit. You don't listen? I think I would do the Pepsi challenge with anybody as far as being the most logical, unbiased person, wrestling talker on YouTube, because at the end of the day, I don't give a fuck who wins. I don't give a fuck who loses. I enjoy professional wrestling, and I enjoy watching professional wrestling. And I will defend booking decisions when I can clearly see that the reason that the fans are so outraged is simply because the person they don't like didn't win. When you're completely ignoring a pretty decent story. You know, for people that complain that Divas don't have any storylines, this one was pretty good because Nikki was escaping time after time, and then Charlotte got that big moment. She got that big match on Monday Night Raw. Her father is there. She's clearly the better wrestler. Of course she's going to win the belt, right? And then Nikki pulls some shit one more time to get away. She's got the belt over her shoulder and then has it taken away from her. She's crying. Her father is there. She's embarrassed. She's pissed off. I mean, all of that is good wrestling booking. That's what you should do because you know that's going to lead to the Night of Champions match where Charlotte is going to have her moment. So to me, if the fans are outraged simply because AJ Lee's record was broken, you need to get over that because the butterfly belt is not that big a deal. And as expected, like we saw on Night of Champions, we do have a new Divas champion, and it was Charlotte, like I said, all a fucking long. The only thing I wanted to happen is that given the storyline and given what we have seen so far from these girls, I wanted Charlotte to go out there and squash her. I said that in my last commentary. She should go out there and beat the fucking shit out of Nikki in a matter of seconds and have her tapping out and screaming for her life after what Nikki did and taking that moment away from Charlotte last Monday night on Raw. I wanted to see Charlotte have a pre-match interview where she was pissed off, where she was furious, maybe even do a half shoot on Nikki. Imagine that. What if Charlotte Charlotte dropped a pipe bomb? What if Charlotte was so pissed off and she was beat red in the face and she had a vein sticking out of her forehead just like her dad would have when he would cut a really intense promo? I mean, she's out of her mind pissed off at Nikki because she should be. What Nikki did on Monday Night Raw was fucked up, and Charlotte, the character, should be furious and should be out for blood. So what I wanted to see was Charlotte look right into the camera and say, you know what? You wouldn't be in this position if it weren't for the people your family was fucking, and you know it, and I'm going to take you down tonight. I'm going to make you cry, Nikki. That's what I wanted to see. But no, they didn't do that. The backstage segment that they did do only showed Charlotte standing there laughing with her fellow PCB members and her dad there, and they're smiling and wishing her luck, and she's all excited and happy. You know, she should have been pissed off. But they went in a different direction. This time, Charlotte tweaks her knee or does something, and they did the whole leg injury bit to where she was basically on one leg throughout the whole match. And what was good about this is it allowed Nikki to not have to do a whole lot. She was able to perform moves on Charlotte with no resistance. You know, Charlotte was hobbled, she was weakened, she was down most of the time, and she was basically at Nikki's disposal, and Nikki could be methodical and go through and just do move by move and not have to do a whole lot, not a lot of counters, not a lot of high-flying stuff, just a straight, deliberate attack, which I think for a heel and for somebody like Nikki who's kind of limited in the ring, that was probably the best way to book that match. And you knew the whole time, never once was I concerned, and not even at the most vicious point in the match when Nikki was just dominating the whole thing. I still didn't for a second think that there was any way in the world Charlotte was going to lose. People on Twitter were telling me, yeah, but what if, but what if? I'm like, no, there is no what ifs. If you think Charlotte is going to lose this match, you are crazy. You are stone cold fucking crazy. I wasn't a huge fan of the finish, to be honest with you, though, because what I thought would happen is that Charlotte would just, after taking such a beating, still kicking out. It reminded me of Bret Hart. You know, Bret Hart would always get his knee hurt. It reminded me of, like, the Royal Rumble, 1994, the year he won the belt at WrestleMania 10. He got it injured in the match with the Quebecers, and then he's in the Royal Rumble. He's hobbling around, and he still winds up winning the thing. Same thing at WrestleMania 10. He injures his leg again in his match with Owen, and then has to go into the match with Yokozuna on one leg, hobbling around, and he just gets lucky. Yokozuna falls over. He ends up getting a roll-up. So I thought they were going to do something like that, where Charlotte is able just to counter something of Nikki's into a wrestling move or a small package and pin her after Nikki had been beaten on her leg for 15 straight minutes. Charlotte is able to roll her up and pin her down and pin her shoulders to the mat for a 3 count. I thought they were going to go in that direction, but instead she hits Nikki with kind of a weak-ass spear and then just puts her in the figure 8, and then Nikki taps out just like that. So if there are any idiots out there cynical enough to complain about this match and say, oh, Nikki looked too strong, bull fucking shit, because after she got done pounding on Charlotte for 12 straight minutes, Charlotte hit her with one spear and put her in her submission, and Nikki was tapping out. So if you ask me, Nikki looked weak. But at the end of the day, we got the result that we wanted. Charlotte is your new Divas champion, and I think, in my logical opinion, that it was worth the wait. I don't see why what happened on Monday Night Raw could have possibly been the end of the world, because here it is less than a week later, and we all got the moment we wanted. The Wyatt family was also victorious over Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose and their mystery partner. The mystery partner turned out to be, drumroll please, Chris Jericho. Now, I am never disappointed to see Jericho. I am a big fan of his. You guys know that, always have been. But is he really the right guy to bring into this feud with the Wyatt family? I mean, Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose, in their interviews leading up to this match, when they said they know who their partner was going to be, they're just not going to tell anyone, they seemed supremely confident. You thought this was going to be somebody that was going to go in there and hang with the Wyatt family. Don't forget, the newest member of the Wyatt family is a giant monster beast. So you're going to bring in a 44-year-old cruiserweight to combat them? You know, I just think Jericho was an odd choice. What's the Wyatt family going to do? Run away in fear? Do you think they're really scared of Chris Jericho at this point in his career? And him and Bray Wyatt do have a history, but I just thought it wasn't really the mystery partner that I wanted. Daniel Bryan, I would have loved to see it, but again, he wouldn't have been my top choice either, because Daniel Bryan's a little guy. You got to think it would have to be someone big that can stand toe-to-toe with these monsters in the Wyatt family, and for Reigns and Ambrose to bring in someone smaller than all of them, to me, didn't make much sense. I think it needed to be a bigger guy. I couldn't think of anybody, except for Eric Rowan, but I guess he wasn't cleared to wrestle. The Rock would have been a nice choice, but I doubt he would have come down to work a random tag match at Night of Champions. There's a couple of guys in NXT like Baron Corbin and maybe a couple others that could have been a good choice to come in. But really, at the end of the day, they went with Jericho, and they kind of did a swerve. I thought that Reigns and Ambrose would win simply because they had a mystery partner. I thought that would almost give away the ending. Oh, well, you're not going to have them lose, are you? But with it, Jericho, as soon as Jericho came out there, I was like, well, shit, I bet you they're going to lose now, because Jericho, every time we've seen him on TV, he's generally putting some younger talent over. Oh, and by the way, how about the fan that ran in the ring before the match, huh? He walked right up to Reigns and Ambrose, and when they were in the ring, he was even wearing, similar Shield riot gear, and he stood right there for a solid, 3 seconds before the security finally tackled him. What the fuck's going on? A couple of fans have jumped the barricades in recent weeks in WWE, so they got to be more careful. The whole thing was actually pretty funny. Should definitely be a segment on the next Botchamania video, I would imagine. And nobody was hurt, thank God. But one of these days, if one of these fans gets over the barricade and he turns out to be a psycho, you got to be a little worried about these wrestlers' safety. But I thought it was pretty funny the way he jumped in the ring and he just kind of stood there like he was the third guy. And you're like, who the fuck is this guy? So pretty funny shit, a little bit shocking, and a tiny bit scary. And I was thinking to myself, oh, they're going to feed Jericho right to Strowman. That's going to be the finish. I don't know what's going to happen yet, but all I know is Strowman's going to wind up beating Jericho. And that's what happened. It looked like Reigns and Ambrose finally had Strowman down. Reigns hit him with a couple of Superman punches and really was rocking him hard. Finally, the big guy goes down. I haven't even seen him, this guy on his back yet. Reigns, I think, even hit him with a spear, and then he's setting up something else, maybe another spear or a Superman punch or whatever. Jericho tags himself in and then ends up doing the lion salt on Strowman. Strowman kicks out, ends up getting his hands on Jericho and puts him in that finisher, that chokehold or whatever. Jericho ends up passing out. The Wyatt family get the victory, and after the match, Reigns and Ambrose come in there, and it looks like they're even going to forgive Jericho. Okay, you made a stupid decision, tagged yourself in, you got beat, fucked us over, no big deal, thanks for being our partner. And Jericho just, shrugs him off and storms right out, and he looks pissed off, and he's walking away. So, Jericho in that kind of douchey, whiny heel role, I kind of like, and if he's going to come back for any sort of run, I wouldn't mind him as a heel, because as a babyface, all he's doing is just going out there and wrestling with guys and putting them over. He's not involved in major storylines anymore. So we'll have to wait and see. You guys might know better than I do what the status of Chris Jericho is. I don't even know this current run that he's going to do, if it's just one time or if he's going to be around for a couple weeks, couple months. I have no idea. Now it's time for the two big title matches. What was interesting about this is I think during the pre-show they announced that both of Seth Rollins' title defenses were going to be back-to-back encounters. So he was going to work with Cena, and then he was going to immediately work with Sting after that. So now, of course, it's time for the U.S. title match. John Cena challenging Seth Rollins for the United States title. These guys had a good match again. Seth Rollins impressed the hell out of me. This guy is unbelievable for his size. He's very strong. Some of the things he does is absolutely awesome. I don't know if he's done this before. A lot of fans were acting like they had seen it, but the spot that he did where he superplexed John Cena off the top rope and then rolled through it and floated over into another just standing vertical suplex, I thought was an amazing spot, and he had so many different instances like that. Seth Rollins is incredibly athletic. Such a pleasure and a joy to watch this guy. Him and Cena had another great match, and Cena, as expected, as I predicted, did regain the United States Championship. I'm not mad about this at all, of course. And on top of that, Seth Rollins, he couldn't hold both of those belts forever. It's unrealistic. The United States title has finally meant something again, and to put it on the world champion and just have the belt flounder and not be defended, I didn't think was doing that belt any favors. I thought it was just a 1-month deal to give Seth Rollins a major moment, give him 2 belts for a few weeks, give it back to Cena, and let Cena pick up where he left off. I thought they made the right call there, and I'm glad that Cena regained the United States title. What was interesting, however, is after the match, Seth Rollins, he doesn't want to face Sting yet. He runs and grabs his belt and tries to leave the ring, right? John Cena stands in his way in the aisleway, won't let him leave, ends up picking him up and giving him the AA on the floor on the outside of the ring, and then tosses his ass back in, and then Sting comes out. You think Seth Rollins is fucked, but he's not. He holds his own. He ends up pretty much dominating Sting. He had the guy beat several times, even threw him through the table. Sting took a couple incredible bumps, even took a top rope dive onto the floor. He dove, like high cross-bodied Seth Rollins from the top rope onto the floor outside of the ring. It was unbelievable. Sting is like 55 years old. What the fuck? So he did a couple of good spots. He took a good bump. Sting worked hard. I got to give the guy credit. He was unable, however, to win the WWE title, as Seth Rollins did end up rolling him up and pinning his shoulders to the mat and got the 3 count, and he did successfully defend the WWE title, which I was hoping he would do. Now, most of the night, I was actually fairly certain that Sheamus, no matter what they did, was not going to successfully cash in the briefcase because they were making way too big a deal about it on the pre-show and throughout the whole night. Sheamus was tweeting pictures about how he's going to cash in. He even did an interview saying he's going to cash in. He walked past Triple H and Stephanie McMahon with the briefcase, basically telling them that he's going to go cash in after the match. So they made such a big deal about him cashing in that I was like, okay, he's probably not going to cash in. And of course, after the match, Seth Rollins is laying there in the middle of the ring. Sheamus's music hits. He comes running out there. Seth Rollins tries to attack him with the belt. He ducks. He hits him with the bro kick. And there you go. He's going to cash in the briefcase. And then the lights go out. The fireworks go off. Kane makes his return. He's got the mask and the outfit back on. So the Demon Kane is back for the time being until he decides to don the khakis again. Kane comes out there, but you're confused. You're like, well, why is he interrupting Sheamus? Because the last time we saw Kane, things were not going well between him and Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins was mocking him after he got his leg shattered by Brock Lesnar and all that shit. So Kane comes out to the ring. You're wondering if he's going to help Seth Rollins, but he doesn't. He picks Seth Rollins up, gives him the choke slam, just giving Sheamus all the more reason to cash in now. And then he cock blocks Sheamus, hits him with a choke slam or attacks Sheamus, and doesn't let him cash in anyway. So even though it wasn't the greatest angle I've ever seen, I think it was good enough if they just wanted to get out of this pay-per-view with Seth Rollins being WWE champion and with Sheamus not cashing in, but at the same time keeping the briefcase. So, and I guess in their minds, mission accomplished. So the show, I'll give it a B. I'll give it a C plus to a B. Decent. Everything that I wanted to see happened. I wanted to see Charlotte win the Divas title. I wanted to see Kevin Owens win the Intercontinental title. I wanted to see John Cena win the U.S. title. And I wanted to see Seth Rollins come out of the pay-per-view still being WWE champion. I am Team Seth Rollins. I really like the guy. And I want him to hold the belt as long as possible. We are now heading into Hell in the Cell, by the way. And some huge news broke during this pay-per-view about Hell in the Cell. And that relates to the main event. They're going to go with Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar in the Hell in the Cell. I believe this is in Los Angeles, and there's a whole bunch of shit leading up to this as well. They're going to do a whole special on Brock Lesnar, I think, through the whole month of October. Brock Lesnar is even going to be a guest on the Stone Cold podcast on the WWE Network. I cannot wait to hear that. Now, the last time there was a significant Stone Cold podcast, he's done one with Paige and Edge and Christian and shit like that, but he had Paul Heyman on the show, and we remember how that ended with Paul Heyman talking about a matchup between him and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 32. So how can they ignore that if Brock Lesnar is going to be on the show? Even if they don't plan on doing that match, how are they going to ignore it because they made such a big deal about it when Paul Heyman was on the show? So I think Brock being on there should be interesting, should be fun, and I cannot wait to see it. And as far as Hell in the Cell goes, I don't know. I mean, I'm glad I guess they're blowing this off now. I'm surprised that after all of this, after the WrestleMania 30 and the SummerSlam match, they're going to blow it off in the Cell in October. Ironically, their first match in the Cell took place in October. I believe it was No Mercy 2002. And the one big problem I see with this year's match is how can they possibly top that? I mean, do you guys remember that match? That thing was a bloodbath. That was one of my favorite Hell in the Cell matches of all time. And Brock Lesnar, you know, he was launched. He was already WWE champion, going into a big match like that, a match that The Undertaker helped make famous, and beating him in his own match clean, with The Undertaker literally squirting blood out of his face. I mean, it was an absolutely brutal match. How in the world are those guys going to be able to top that performance in today's product, in today's 2015 Hell in the Cell type matches? There's no way they're going to be able to do it, given Undertaker's age and all of the restrictions now on them because of the WWE's current product. So, hey, at least it's probably going to wrap up business here. I mean, the Hell in the Cell, the whole point of a Cell match is to finalize a feud or to blow one off. So I cannot see Undertaker and Brock going past Hell in the Cell. This is definitely a fitting environment to end this whole thing. I'm sure we'll see a lot more build up to that in the next 4 weeks. Undertaker and Brock, I'm sure, will be on the show. Kind of an interesting time of year for all this to happen. I mean, for these two big guys, these megastars to be on the show during this kind of downtime. It's past SummerSlam time. We're way before WrestleMania. A lot of times some of these months can be a little stale, but it sure as hell is not going to be stale with Undertaker and Brock Lesnar headlining the next pay-per-view. So it looks like great things lie ahead. I want to thank you guys for listening. Give me all your opinions and your thoughts on Night of Champions, and let me know what you think about the Taker and Brock rematch at Hell in the Cell. I'm going to try my best to be up here for a Monday Night Raw review on Tuesday. There's a chance that could be delayed. I'm not really sure yet, but either way, you will hear from me this week. So I will talk to you in a few days regardless. Until next time, peace.